this week. Not exactly an endorsement necessarily of his future there in Pittsburgh.
Listen, Kev is a real dude, like a football guy. He's not one of these dudes that wants to be on TV and wants to be blasted on NFL Live and wants to have quotables. He's talking real life and real football. Also, he said that Ben talked to Mike, he talked to Art, he talked to Kev. He made sure that he knew what the situation was before it ever went public. Now, he's in a hard situation, in a hard spot, because Ben basically held up a sign that said, "We'll work for the Steelers for free." But he said it at the end of that talk, or the end of that media session. We want to do what's best for the Steelers, the organization, and then for Ben. But the organization comes first. And I think he realizes you can't win a Super Bowl with Ben Roethlisberger right now. And listen, I was on the phone with TP, with Troy Polamalu, when he was going through things and when he was eventually released. And I was thinking to myself, if they can do it to him, the best Steeler I've ever played with, the best player I've ever been on a team with, if they can do it to him, if he can be released, then anybody could go. And Ben Roethlisberger is no different.
God, I wish I could do that kind of flex on air and just say I was on the phone with TP. Ryan Clark, you're so cool. All right. I was thinking about this because earlier today I was thinking, well, the Steelers are in a really tough spot. They're capped out. They don't have a lot of options at quarterback. Maybe they can just restructure Ben and begin the transition. But then I put my mindset, or I tried to think about what it would be like as a Steelers fan watching next season. Because the reality is, if Ben Roethlisberger is the quarterback, what you saw at the end of last year and in the playoffs, that's what it's going to look like. It's probably going to be worse, frankly, because that arm isn't getting any better. And the more I thought about that, regardless of whether or not you think this team is a Super Bowl team without him, that's not watchable football. That's not good for the organization. It's not about transition or managing the transition. It's about ripping the Band-Aid, taking that $22 million cap hit, and finding a quarterback now. I would say take a gamble on trading for Darnold. Trade up in the draft. Do what you got to do because Mason Rudolph ain't it. But you got to come up with some sort of solution now, or at least experiment, because I'll tell you what you do know is that Ben Roethlisberger isn't the quarterback that's going to take you to the Super Bowl next season.
And that's the hard thing, right? Coach Tomlin always talks about his emotional bank account. That's what this decision is about. Coach Tomlin was like, there's certain people that can do certain things because they've deposited enough in my emotional bank account. Where no player on this team or in this organization has done that more than Ben Roethlisberger for Coach Tomlin, or more than Ben Roethlisberger for Kevin Colbert. If this was another quarterback, this is an easy decision. You say, you know what, we're going to cut our losses and move ahead with a different quarterback, with a different plan. You know you cannot win a Super Bowl with Ben Roethlisberger, but you also know you can't win it with the rest of the people that are now on this roster. And so what they have to figure out is, do we move forward to the next chapter in the best way that's good for our organization and good for our fans?
Guys, quickly, we all agree that Sam Darnold would be an upgrade. I'm not asking you to say significant upgrade over Ben Roethlisberger, but we think that would be an upgrade for sure?
I think you can see the possibility of an upgrade. Yeah, I mean, right, that's it. He can throw the ball 35 yards, Laura. I mean, he's got that going for him.
Yeah, that's an improvement right there in and of itself. Okay, one of the people that they hope to throw the ball to in Pittsburgh, Juju Smith-Schuster, he could be one of the most sought-after free agents receivers, though, this offseason. He'll have some company. Check out some of these pass catchers that could hit the open market. Will Fuller, Chris Godwin, Kenny Golladay, Allen Robinson, just to name a few. But first, more on Robinson, who said yesterday, quote, "I'm not opposed to being back in Chicago by any means." He didn't say I want to. You think Panthers and Watson makes sense? Because it's very intriguing to me.
Yeah, Laura, let's start with why Carolina might be a desirable place if Houston has to trade Deshaun Watson. First of all, you want to get him as far away from your division as you can. You only play the Panthers once every 4 years. You're not going to be constantly reminded of his greatness as you would be if you traded them either in the division, that never happens, or at least in the conference. Beyond that, the Jets and the Dolphins might have the best draft ammo to make an offer for Deshaun Watson, but if they decide to go in a different direction, which to me seems plausible if not likely, the Panthers have the 8th overall pick. This is a team that lost 8 games by 7 or fewer points last year. I spent the week covering the Senior Bowl for us at ESPN, and the Panthers coaching staff was there and made no secrets about its ambition to potentially find another quarterback this offseason. They sniffed around on Matthew Stafford. Deshaun Watson would be the prize for them this offseason. It'll cost probably at least 3 first-round picks, but Carolina's audacious enough to make this kind of move.
You know what I love about this Deshaun Watson trade discussion is you have to look at it from 3 angles. Who wants him? Well, obviously every team wants him. It's not hard to see why Carolina would want him. What would Houston get out of it? Field just laid out the 8th overall pick could be a nice prize coupled with some other first-round picks. But then there's a third angle, which is what does Deshaun Watson want? Because of the no trade clause, we have to consider that as well, which we normally wouldn't when looking at potential trades. And that's where I think it gets a little tricky because Carolina, what you've got there is a young, rising team with a relatively new head coach and Matt Rule. You've got a hotshot offensive coordinator and Joe Brady. That's attractive. You've got good skill players. Love DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Robbie Anderson. That's interesting. Offensive line, not so good. Defense, young, bottom 10 last year. All of that, I think, is more attractive than Houston. But is it more attractive than Miami? No. If I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm saying I'd rather go to the Dolphins. Now, again, that Dolphins offer might not be on the table. But from his perspective, I'm not sure Carolina is the most attractive destination. It really depends on what are the realistic alternatives.
Well, Mina, the player, because obviously to Nick Caserio, he doesn't have a stinking name. At least think you should be able to say Deshaun Watson's name. The player may not have that type of cachet, or he may not be able to wait on that deal. And I think you hit it on the head. At least it's not Houston. And Joe Brady and I, we got kind of cool. Well, we got pretty cool when he was working here at LSU, and we always joked about me coaching. I tell you what, I'd have a better opportunity to go coach if he got Deshaun Watson, because he'd be a head coach much sooner when you have a quarterback like that. And you think about what he would bring to this team, what he would be to any team that he could go to. If I was him, I'd want to go to Miami too. Miami was just a quarterback away from being an elite level football team. But you have young playmakers in Carolina. You have a defense that was young that can continue to improve. And you have a relatively new head coach only in his second year in Matt Rule, who seems to understand winning and team building. And so if I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm looking at my situation in Houston and saying, you know what? Anywhere is better than this. And if the Carolina Panthers can put together enough draft capital to acquire him, I think that's a place he would love to be rather than Houston.
Yeah, you know, Field, the more we're talking about this, the more this is making sense to me. The other thing, too, about Carolina is they've committed to Matt Rule. He's going to be their guy. They made that very clear. You know, you got to think that they're this team that is sort of like waiting in the wings a little bit, ready to pounce on something like this. The other piece of this is that Christian McCaffrey and Deshaun Watson. What?
Laura, I see what you did there. They're Panthers, and they're waiting to pounce on this. Girl, you
the only reason I said all of that.
The mascot is named Sir Pounce.
That is good. That is good.
It's Sir Purr. It's Sir Purr.
Purring and pouncing, they're all things that Panthers do. And the fact is, Field, I was going to let you back in, but the only reason why we said all of that was just to get all of our cat metaphors in. So we're going to actually go to break now.